like if I have a case where, we have one embryo from one family, but I never expect anybody to go into a full cycle with only one embryo. So I match them with two families simultaneously. So then you basically have to do
a three-party.
Well,
or like two at the
it's like doing two matches at once for the same. You're really doing. It's really just the same amount of work. Yeah, it's one of those deals. But we want to give. Just because somebody only has one embryo, we don't want to make them. I mean, one embryo is one person, one human, and that person could be born, and we don't want to tell, because some places won't take one embryo. So we want to take any embryo, and we'll take one embryo, and we make it right with the adopting family by matching with another secondary set. So,
have you had any successful pregnancies from a mixed transfer?
Yeah, they were there at the church the other night.
Oh, all right. And then did they do a DNA test after the baby's born?
Oh,
to figure out?
that kind of mixed. Oh, no, we haven't. And what we do, if we have the one embryo and it survives the thaw, we just put the one in. Then you don't have to do genetic testing. But if you thaw the one embryo and it doesn't survive the thaw, if you don't have another set, then the people are all good to go, and they're sent home.
So is mixing allowed? If say
some clinics will mix them, and some of them won't.
Some clinics, you mean?
Some clinics will not mix. I know one doctor, one embryologist. He was trained in New Zealand, and I guess they just don't do it that way there. And so he goes, no mixing here, and I'm like, are you kidding me? It was my doctor, my old doctor, and so. I thought I had that other.
Would it be in here?
I think I already went through there, and I don't know why it's not in there. That is so funny. But anyway, you'll just have to trust me. It's one of those things. I got the other picture, and I was just like, ding, 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 ding. This is so interesting. Well, and plus, you think people from Africa, you're kind of like, well, they don't have an education. You would assume somebody from Ethiopia or somebody from,
Yeah, it would be a small group of folks who have this.
Very small group of people that go to college out of those countries. I mean, they barely have first grade, So, anyhow, let's see. Yeah, I don't have it. Which is too bad. But anyway, you get it. You get the point.
What are other examples of cases that have been difficult to match, and what are sort of the
let's see. Okay, like I had a family, they waited a long time because they were raised Catholic, but they didn't go to church. So they weren't Catholic and they weren't Protestant.
Okay. And
they wanted to have a completely anonymous adoption, which I don't advocate. However, when people say they want to be anonymous, I kind of, so then I ask them, I go, well, do you want a birth announcement? Oh yeah, we want a birth announcement. Well, that is not anonymous. They think it is. Anonymous means you will not get a birth announcement. So then I have to kind of re-educate them. So this family is saying that they want to be anonymous. But what I've sent them already on a match that I finally did get for them, who the donor parents kind of want to be anonymous. But they still want to get pictures and letters and stuff. So in their minds, they're calling it anonymous, but it's really open through Cedar Park.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but if they want to call it anonymous, I'll let them call it anonymous, whatever they want to call it. But this is, it's really semi-open. And, but they were hard to match because they were neither Catholic nor Protestant. And so a lot of families, they're really interested in what kind of family, what kind of tradition they'll be raised in. And Catholics know what Catholic is, and Catholics want their embryos to go to Catholic families that'll raise them in Catholic schools. Protestants who are Protestants and have never been Catholic just kind of look at Catholic almost in the same way they would look at Jewish, just sort of like completely foreign, And so it's like, well, we're not that. And so people who, so that was a difficult match just because she stated anonymous, so I had to kind of work around that. So I had to find somebody else who stated anonymous, but who really meant semi-open, you know, and work around kind of parameters where their profile was not that clearly defined, you know, just kind of in the gray area. Other donor families that donate embryos, I can find a match for almost any set of embryo. I mean, there's really no embryo that's hard to match.
With an adopting family.
I mean,
so you have which pile's bigger?
The adopting family pile is bigger, but not completely horribly disproportionately so. And I mean, I have embryos and then I have files, but you have to, like I said, you know, we're not just doing this to make a pregnancy, we're doing this to make a match. So if it's not something sort of like on this scale here where I see how this is just going to really work out for the kid, you know, it's really not a match. It's just kind of having the gumball sort of roll down the thing at the same time the adopting family is done with their home study. And it has to be more compelling than just, oh, they're now in the matching phase and this family is good to go, and so they're an intersection. Really has to be more, there has to be more compelling reasons than just they're in our files.
So tell me how you figure out those compelling reasons. Like, are there matching criteria or little cheat sheets you put together to sort of discern what's special or what might be great connecting points? Or how do you...
I have a little cheat sheet, and so like these files are all filled with papers and everything, but I actually have a one-page sheet on each family, both donor and adopting, and it has their name, their date of birth, so I know about how old they are. There's type of openness, education, religious background, and some very objective bullet points. You know, just those things. Like no college education, some college, BA, MA, you know, those kind of things. I put down their, you know, body type, what do I call that? Build. And I'll just say, you know, tallish, real tall, you know, stocky or whatever, and then I put, you know, the guy is 6'2" and he's 220 and blonde-haired and blue-eyed. The wife is da-da-da. So I kind of get, you know, just because otherwise, it's just so overwhelming. You know, you're just like, how do you figure it out?
Like 12 pages of profile.
Yeah. So I make a one-page profile where I can kind of look down and look at, I mean, if they're Catholic, they're Catholic. They're going to go to a Catholic family, so that eliminates all the Protestant families, and that's that. You know, so that's an easy one.
Okay.
Or if they're, like if the donor says that they want, they have 13 embryos and they want the embryos to go to a younger family, well then that eliminates everybody over 35. So then that's sort of, you know, so there's some of that separating out. Okay. And then there's the more subjective parts, you know, like let's say you get two families and they're like, it all says the same thing and they kind of look the same and they're you know, everything on their profiles match. That doesn't necessarily make a match. It's the little things that are, and I pray about it, to be honest with you. And I've had files, both the donor and adopting files, in my files, at times for several months before it becomes apparent to me that it's a match. There's just something about, you know, it has to kind of percolate for a while sometimes. And I do pray about it, and I ask for guidance because I am only human, and you know, so these cheat sheets, you're going to decide the fate of two families and all their generations for eternity based on two cheat sheets, you know.
That I created, and maybe I missed something.
Right. So I try to wait until I feel like in my gut that it's right. And until, you know, even if it's looking good on paper, until I have this sense that it's complete and that this file is ready, I mean, I just don't send it because it's tempting to